of HIV/AIDS situation, but once they are aware, to sustain, positive behavior that keeps them from HIV is an ownership. At a family level, the family should discuss, the parents should discuss with their children about HIV/AIDS, and show them, build skills of protecting themselves from HIV and AIDS. At the level of schools, school administration, the managers, the teachers should protect, the children going to school as their own children. You don't need, a special fund for this. They can do a lot without even funding, at the level of school, at the level of family, at the level of individual.
You've mentioned a number of areas of intervention, treatment,
Yes.
and this and that.
Yes.
But are all the stakeholders thinking alike, or are they bent on thinking and acting independently?
Well, most of the stakeholders think alike. It's really a question of, are they involved? And it's really the onus is on everybody at country level to make sure that every institution, every community, every individual, traditional healers, traditional leaders own up the epidemic and know what HIV is all about and how they can participate in its mitigation. So it's really a question of inclusivity. And indeed, even at country level, you talked about how can you own up when some of the resources come from outside. But, AIDS is a global issue. In the ultimate, no one continent can actually fight it alone. That's why we do have, apart from the international conferences on AIDS and STIs in Africa, because we are the most affected continent, we also have the global AIDS conferences to really say, look, AIDS does not need a passport to cross borders. In the ultimate, if we are going to really stem the tide of this epidemic, we all have to fight together. So that we are really saying countries should own up the epidemic, fund it, but at the same time, we should know that we do have to depend also on help from outside. However, we should be able to show ourselves that we are able to own it up, to also sustain it by devoting at least that 15% of our budget to HIV. But not only that, encouraging our communities to really participate in AIDS prevention, in treatment, in care and support, and not just as recipients, but also as actual, people who are involved.
Only a few countries managed to slate that percentage of their national budget for health and related issues. Not many countries are lagging behind.
But no one
That's
country.
not something that is encouraging.
It is encouraging in that no one country sat on their laurels when that particular commitment was made. They have all increased the health budget. It's just that, as he's already said, we have competing priorities. We could prioritize even better, so that's really then the key to success. Now that we are here, how do we then prioritize, even at country level, in such a way that we really make sure that the money goes to where it's needed most? It's really to ensure that there's zero tolerance for corruption. Whatever money we generate in the country and whatever money we get from funders, such as the global funds, such as Prof, is used, and in where is intended for. So that way, I think we'd be able to achieve. I think the problem of HIV is one problem that cannot be solved overnight. But so far, even myself as the director of UNAIDS, I am encouraged by its success enough to say that other people, if they can be this motivated, we can be able to take it further. And one day, we will speak of zero HIV infections.
Well, that's for sure.
And I'm
like
hoping
many
it will
honest
be my
disease.
lifetime.
Absolutely. But what is that you want to achieve in the conference coming up in December of this year?
Yeah, there are several things which we are planning to achieve.
You're going to have 10,000 activists, scholars,
10,000
scientists.
delegates. It's a mixture of scientists, activists, leaders, community members, a host of, large spectrum of a large group of people. And what we are planning to achieve is, one, to use this conference as a platform of advocacy to mobilize the leaders, all sorts of leaders, the partners, international partners, and other partners, the private sector, the community, the academia, and so on, so that they increase their commitment and ownership of the response to HIV/AIDS. One is that. The other is to use as a forum to exchange knowledge and skills, and also consolidate best practices from Africa and outside Africa in order to improve the response to HIV and AIDS, in particular in Africa, but also globally. And the other thing is to hold accountable, to use this forum as a forum to hold accountable, leaders, all segments of society, to improve the response to HIV/AIDS, to scale up and sustain, the responses to HIV and AIDS. And also we use it as a forum to define priorities, set program and policy agendas, to effectively and efficiently use the resources we get, and also in an accountable way. These are, in short, the objectives of...
But how are you going to reach to the ordinary African? Of course, you're going to bring together, as you've said, 10,000 people in Addis Ababa, talk about this pandemic, also of STDs, and talk about it, trying to influence governments, because one of the major issues here is advocacy, to be able to influence policy and all that stuff. Unless the message reaches the ordinary African, there is no way that you can make governments accountable. But how are you going to reach the ordinary African? To take it beyond these magnificent halls where you're going to set up the meeting?
I will tell you that the fight against AIDS actually started at community level. And it is being really, that's where the main strength is.
But there is going to be several important messages coming out of this conference, I presume.
Yes, we will be having civil society, and these are organizations of people living with HIV, organizations of AIDS service organizations of women, sometimes just ordinary women's organizations, so that at grassroots level, we will be having quite a lot of those. But not only that, we have what we call a community program, where all these people, the NGOs and the grassroots level, community-based organizations will be able to get together, showcase what they're doing, because some of those are actually the best practices, especially when it comes to prevention as well as care. Remember, home-based care is still exactly that, and it is still in the hands of women, so that they are then going to be able to show how they've done it and how the government is helping, how other leaders are helping, and what they think can be done then, therefore, to be as we move forward. So we'll be having that, what we call a community program, and in fact a community village where people will be able to visit, and individual organizations will be able to showcase what they're doing, and we'll be able to then get best practice out of that. In every conference is always like that. The community village is really like the best part, because the scientists are okay, that they've done their experiments and all, and they're showing what has happened. And the leaders, political leaders are there, the community leaders, they're really showing how they can help and what is going to help. But at grassroots level, the very people who are the foot soldiers are the ones who really matter. And they'll be there.
What do you expect to achieve between this conference in December and the next one? Would it be a different story, the 17th International Conference?
Yeah, we hope...
or are you going to talk about basically the same problems and challenges?
Actually, the problem will continue to exist, but we try the best to reduce, the transmission, mitigate the different problems brought about by the epidemic, and treat more and so on. It cannot disappear, between the two conferences. But predominantly what we expect is, a paradigm shift in some of our strategies of addressing, HIV/AIDS problems and also sexually transmitted infections. And apparently the Millennium Development Goal, is one of our, international targets. And the time is approaching and we will significantly improve our performance between these two in order to achieve the Millennium Goal targets. That's what we just hope, to happen between the two conferences.
Well,
For this particular conference, as we chart our way forward, we'll really be looking at what have we accomplished, especially in the newer methods that were found in the previous years, to say if you do this in addition to all the other, let's say, for example, prevention. One of the newer methods has been pre-exposure prophylaxis, has been microbicides for women, but also male circumcision. It's really, we'll then be able to sit down and say, has it really worked? And under what circumstances has it worked? How acceptable has it been to communities that have never circumcised males, and suddenly they're told it will also help to reduce the epidemic? But also to look at how has it been done? Have the males been just given like a passport now to do anything, or in there were there messages to say, look, this is just one of the ways to reduce. However, you still have to be faithful. You still have to use condoms, so that we're looking at that whole government to say, how then do we improve as we go forward to make sure that these messages are not seen as separate messages, but are seen as comprehensive messages that say we have to prevent, and in preventing we have to abstain, we have to really change our behavior and all that. So it will help as we reach the Millennium Development Goals to say, goal number 6, have we reversed and begun to slow down the spread of HIV? We'll be able to say that globally we are there, not quite, but with more effort we can get there.
Professor Tolu, Dr. Yigeremu, thank you very much. It was a
Thank you
pleasure
very
having
much.
you there.
It was a
Thank you
pleasure.
very much.
Yeah.